This episode doesn't just raise the stakes, it rips the ground out from under everyone and dares them to stand. One decision, one meeting, one sentence changes the power structure forever, and by the end of this hour, nothing about Landman feels safe anymore. Landman Season 2? Episode 6 goes hard because it finally shows us what pressure really does to people when there is nowhere left to run. From the very first moments, you can feel that something is off, like the calm that comes right before everything breaks. The Norris family is no longer reacting to problems. They are drowning in them. Cammy thought the worst was already behind her after the offshore blowout, after the insurance chaos, after burying her husband and stepping into a role she never asked for. She believed the damage was limited, that the company had taken its hit and survived. But this episode makes it painfully clear that survival was just an illusion. When the new deadline drops, the situation explodes all over again. A 45-day demand to start re-drilling the Louisiana well turns an already fragile recovery into a legal nightmare. This isn't just about money anymore. This is about criminal exposure, federal scrutiny, and the real possibility that everything Monty built could be erased in one brutal sweep. Cammy walks into that meeting expecting bad news, but what she gets is far worse. The $400 million settlement she believed was secure was never truly there. It wasn't waiting in a protected account. It was scattered, rerouted, and buried inside Monty's separate corporate structures, spread across private equity like pieces of a puzzle that no longer fits together. Getting that money back wouldn't take days or weeks. It would take months, maybe longer, and cost resources the company simply doesn't have anymore. The lawyers don't soften the blow, and that honesty is almost cruel in how direct it is. Their answer is simple and devastating: bankruptcy. On paper, MTex might survive, but the company Monty built with his own hands would be stripped down to something unrecognizable. For Cammy, that option isn't business. It's betrayal. Bankruptcy feels like losing Monty all over again, like handing his legacy over to courtrooms and insurance adjusters who never cared about the sacrifice behind it. Before she can fully process it, Tommy steps in and does something he rarely does. He tells her everything. He lays out the cartel-linked mineral rights, the near-death negotiations, the way Galino inserted himself as a savior when everything was falling apart. Tommy doesn't dramatize it. He doesn't beg. He just explains the reality. From the outside, accepting a massive loan tied to Galino doesn't look like survival. It looks like laundering. To him, that risk isn't just dangerous, it's fatal. The FBI might forgive leasing bad minerals, but a $400 million loan changes the story completely. It turns them into the engine of something far darker. Tommy draws his line there, believing he's protecting the company, Cammy, and himself. But Cammy has already crossed a line of her own. Bankruptcy is not an option. Losing Monty's company is not an option. And for the first time, she doesn't hesitate. She doesn't ask. She decides. When she says she will accept Galino's offer, it lands like a gunshot. And when she adds that meetings will now come to her, it becomes clear that the grieving widow is gone. In her place stands someone colder, sharper, and fully in control. Tommy doesn't just lose an argument in this moment, he loses his position. Episode 6 makes it clear that power has shifted, and once it moves, it never comes back the same way. What makes Episode 6 feel so intense is how quietly the damage spreads after that power shift. Cammy's decision doesn't explode right away. Instead, it settles into the room like something poisonous, changing how everyone breathes. Galino, of course, senses it immediately. He doesn't celebrate, and he doesn't push. That's what makes him terrifying. He moves like someone who knows the end of the story and is simply waiting for the others to catch up. When Tommy tries one last time to resist, Galino doesn't threaten him or flex his influence. He just delivers a single line that cuts deeper than any threat ever could. He tells Tommy that he is the solution. And the worst part is that he's right. Galino has positioned himself so perfectly that rejecting him feels impossible, and accepting him feels like surrender. That's the trap. Tommy sees it clearly, but seeing the trap doesn't mean you can escape it. Cammy doesn't see a manipulator standing in front of her. She sees stability. She sees someone who can keep the company alive without erasing Monty's name from it. Galino understands that, and he plays to it with terrifying precision. The rodeo becomes the perfect example of how completely Tommy has been pushed to the outside. What should have been a simple outing turns into one of the most uncomfortable sequences of the episode. Standing there, watching Cammy and Galeno laugh and talk like old friends, Tommy feels invisible. Every smile between them feels like a reminder that his influence is slipping away. Galeno doesn't rush anything. He lets the distance grow naturally, making Tommy feel it in real time. Then he starts applying pressure in smaller, quieter ways. He drops comments designed to make Tommy question where he stands. He plants subtle doubts in Cammy's mind, never directly attacking Tommy, just nudging her to wonder if he's holding her back. It's manipulation disguised as charm, and it works because it never looks aggressive. Tommy carries that weight with him, the fear that he's losing more than just his job. He's torn between protecting Cammy from someone he doesn't trust and holding onto the life and identity he's built around this company. Episode 6 doesn't give him a release from that tension. It tightens it, leaving him stuck in a position where every move feels like the wrong one. At the same time, the episode cuts to Cooper, who is riding high on a fantasy that's about to collapse. For a brief moment, he truly believes he's won. Oil, money, independence, it all feels real to him, but that dream doesn't survive a simple breakfast conversation at the Patch Cafe. Tommy doesn't yell, he doesn't mock him, he does something far more devastating. He tells the truth. Cooper might have oil, but he doesn't have an operation. No structure, no protection, no understanding of the responsibilities that come with success in this world. Tommy dismantles the deal Cooper signed with Galeno piece by piece, showing him how carefully it was designed to benefit only one side. On paper, it looks impressive. In reality, it's a cage. You can see the moment Cooper realizes it, when the excitement drains from his face and is replaced with fear. He's trapped, and for the first time, he understands that instinct alone isn't enough in this business. What saves him is timing. Tommy steps in before the damage becomes permanent, arranging for MTex to absorb the leases, cancel the note, and stop the collapse before it starts. It feels fast, almost too clean, but that speed only makes it clear that this problem isn't gone. It's postponed. Episode 6 makes it clear that consequences are coming, and no one is walking away untouched. What makes this episode hit even harder is what comes after the immediate crisis, when the characters are forced to sit with the consequences instead of reacting to them. Cooper doesn't celebrate being saved. There's no relief, no sense of victory. There's only reality settling in. Tommy doesn't let him escape it either. He doesn't frame the rescue as a favor or a second chance. He frames it as a lesson. He tells Cooper that having good instincts means nothing if you don't understand the rules of the game. That line lands because it strips Cooper of the one thing he thought made him special. Tommy explains the business in plain terms, not to scare him, but to ground him. Payroll, debt, long-term responsibility, the parts no one brags about when they talk about striking oil. And then comes the offer that changes Cooper's path completely. A job, not glory, not ownership, work. Tommy lays it out with brutal honesty. A landman makes steady money, real money, but the true value comes from learning how deals actually work. When he says that understanding the rules lets you bend them, and truly knowing them lets you break them, it isn't a threat. It's an invitation into a world Cooper thought he already belonged to. Cooper doesn't look excited when he accepts. He looks humbled. For the first time, he isn't chasing a shortcut. He's accepting that growth is going to hurt. While Cooper's future is being quietly rewritten, Tommy's own world continues to shrink. The more he fixes problems for others, the more powerless he becomes in his own life. Cammy doesn't pull him into decisions anymore. She informs him. That difference matters. It shows how completely the balance has shifted. Tommy built his identity on being the man who holds things together, the one who knows how to navigate chaos. Now he's watching someone else take the wheel, and he doesn't trust where they're steering. Galeno remains calm through all of it, almost amused. He never needs to raise his voice or assert dominance because he already has it. Every interaction reinforces the same truth. He's embedded himself so deeply that removing him would cause everything to collapse. Tommy knows it. Cammy knows it, even if she won't admit it. That unspoken awareness hangs over every scene, making even quiet moments feel heavy. The emotional weight of the episode builds through small realizations rather than big explosions. Cooper begins to understand that adulthood isn't a moment. It's a series of choices you don't get to undo. Tommy begins to realize that loyalty doesn't protect you when power changes hands. And Cammy begins to fully step into a version of herself that doesn't ask permission anymore. She isn't cruel, but she's firm. She isn't reckless, but she's decisive. Episode 6 shows that strength doesn't always look heroic. Sometimes it looks like making a choice that hurts the people closest to you because you believe it's the only way forward. By the end of this section of the story, it's clear that everyone has crossed a line they can't step back over, and whatever comes next will be built on that damage. By the time episode 6 reaches its final stretch, the story isn't about explosions or sudden twists anymore. It's about weight. The kind of weight that settles into your chest and doesn't leave. Cooper feels it first. The reality of his choices starts closing in from every direction. Ariana, marriage, responsibility. All of it begins to collide at once, and there's no space left for him to pretend he's ready. Spending time around Ariana's baby hits him harder than any lecture ever could. It forces him to confront a future that's coming, whether he feels prepared or not. He isn't just stepping into a relationship anymore. He's stepping toward fatherhood, stability, and sacrifice, all at an age where most people are still figuring out who they are. Cooper doesn't break under that pressure, but you can see it changing him. He's learning the same way he always has, by being thrown into the fire and surviving it. The difference now is that he isn't alone. Ariana stays beside him, steady and grounded, and that support becomes the first real foundation he's ever had. By the end of the episode, the idea of a wedding doesn't feel impulsive. It feels earned. Two people choosing commitment, not because it's easy, but because they understand what it will cost. Tommy's ending is far quieter and far more painful. There's no dramatic confrontation, no moment where he storms out or makes a stand. Instead, he's left sitting with the understanding that the job he loves, the life he built, and the influence he once had are all slipping away at the same time. He did everything right. He protected Cooper. He warned Cammy. He saw Galino for what he was. And none of it mattered. Episode 6 makes it brutally clear that being right doesn't mean you win. Sometimes it just means you're the first one to see the fall coming. Tommy is still standing at the end of the episode, but he's standing on ground that no longer belongs to him. And then there's Cammy, fully in control, fully committed, no longer reacting, no longer asking. She has chosen survival over approval, power over comfort. Whether that choice saves the company or destroys it remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, there is no turning back. Landman. Season 2, Episode 6 earns its reputation because it doesn't reset the board. It burns it. Every relationship is altered, every character is pushed onto a new path, and whatever comes next won't be about fixing mistakes. It will be about paying for them. What makes Episode 6 feel so intense is how quietly the damage spreads after that power shift. Cammy's decision doesn't explode right away. Instead, it settles into the room like something poisonous, changing how everyone breathes. Galino, of course, senses it immediately. He doesn't celebrate, and he doesn't push. That's what makes him terrifying. He moves like someone who knows the end of the story and is simply waiting for the others to catch up. When Tommy tries one last time to resist, Galino doesn't threaten him or flex his influence. He just delivers a single line that cuts deeper than any threat ever could. He tells Tommy that he is the solution. And the worst part is that he's right. Galino has positioned himself